21st century sports are unquestionably dominated by fast teams and athletes. But what does it mean to be fast? Clearly, speed can be observed by watching two athletes race from point A to point B. This would certainly be a demonstration of speed, and we could safely assume that the athlete that reaches the finish line first is the faster of the two athletes. Or maybe we can't make that assumption. Consider this scenario. Two athletes are positioned on a starting line. Athlete A is a great sprinter and can outrun athlete B. However, pretend athlete A is blind and that this race will start when a coach at the finish line raises a flag. As soon as the flag is raised, athlete B reacts to it and begins running towards the finish line. Athlete A doesn't even know the race has started until someone yells at him. Despite his great sprinting ability, athlete A loses the race. The point of this example is to show that speed is not just the ability to run or move fast, it is also the ability to recognize the need to move. Of all the things that trigger an athlete's movements, sight is the most important. The movement of teammates, opponents, and the ball all communicate to an athlete when he or she needs to step on the gas and launch into a sprint. In most cases, all the athlete ever really sees is a flash of color. Seeing the color of an opponent's jersey out of the corner of their eye may tell the athlete to move one way, while the flash of the ball in front of them may command a different movement. Therefore, for an athlete to be fast in every sense of the word, they must be able to observe these flashes of color, efficiently decode them, and then quickly react to them. The unique training exercises on this video have been designed to develop an athlete's ability to recognize and react to colors just as they do during competition. By using these techniques, an athlete will learn to interact with the flow of a game more quickly and will stay one step ahead of their competition. It is intended that you use the visual ignition equipment pack from Speed City when you perform the drills on this video. The equipment pack contains 12 colored wiffle balls, 4 colored cones, and a set of colored cards and a carrying bag. If you do not have this equipment, you may find it by visiting the Speed City website at speedcity.com. Generally speaking, each of the exercises on this video are presented in their most basic form, and then additional elements are added to increase their level of difficulty. Athletes should master the basic form of the drill before progressing to the next. Hurrying to get to the most complex form of a drill and then performing it in a sloppy manner will only serve to reinforce bad habits. Visual ignition is beneficial to all athletes, but is particularly good for athletes competing in team sports such as football, basketball, soccer, baseball, and volleyball. Because these sports involve so many athletes and so much movement, it is crucial that an individual athlete be able to quickly process all the visual information swirling around them. Finally, the nature of the visual ignition drills makes them candidates for use at any time. An entire workout can be composed by stringing together a half dozen drills, or a single drill can be chosen and used as a warm-up prior to a practice. Because visual ignition drills require tremendous concentration, they can also provide a real challenge at the end of practices when athletes are fatigued. Regardless of when they are used, the exercises on this video are capable of significantly impacting an athlete's on-the-field performance. This first drill is called the eye opener, and it's the perfect drill to begin a visual ignition workout. In this exercise, the athlete stands directly in front of the coach and closes his eyes. The coach holds a red ball in one hand and a blue ball in the other hand. The coach will hold one of the balls in front of the athlete and say, "Now." When the coach gives this command, the athlete will open his eyes and look at the ball. If the ball is red, the athlete will quickly grab the ball. And if it is blue, the athlete will ignore the ball and remain still. The athlete will then close his eyes, and the coach will continue to present the balls to the athlete in rapid succession. While the last drill forced the athlete to react to a stationary colored ball, This drill now requires the athlete to react to a moving ball. The athlete begins by kneeling in front of the coach and looking directly at the coach's chin. The coach then holds red and blue balls above the athlete's head and out of the athlete's vision. The coach designates a hot color and then begins dropping the balls one at a time. The athlete only has a split second to recognize the color of the ball as it drops through his field of vision. Here, red is the hot color, so the athlete must catch the red balls and allow the blue balls to drop to the ground. After the athlete has become proficient in the basic version of free fall, the coach will then drop two different colored balls at one time. The athlete must now quickly scan both balls and then only catch the hot colored ball. Every demonstration thus far has featured the red ball as the hot colored ball. However, the hot color should change from drill to drill so the athlete doesn't learn only to react to red. Here the athlete and coach are performing the same drill that was just shown, except that the coach is telling the athlete which color is hot just before dropping the balls. The athlete's brain must now be able to quickly switch back and forth from color to color and not simply key on one color for every rep. The cone slap drill steps up the difficulty yet again by requiring the athlete to recognize and react to the color of a moving object and then use eye-hand coordination to perform a task with the object. The drill begins by placing the athlete in a standing position between a red and blue cone. The coach then kneels in front of the athlete with red and blue balls. The athlete should stare directly at the coach's face while the coach tosses the balls one at a time up in front of the athlete. When the athlete sees the ball, he must react to its color and slap it in the direction of the appropriately colored cone to his left or right. Red balls get hit towards the red cone and blue balls to the blue cone. Athletes may be able to catch on to this drill pretty fast, but simply inverting the commands can absolutely cripple the athlete. Here the athlete has been instructed to hit the red balls to the blue cone and the blue balls to the red cone. This seemingly insignificant reversal changes the game completely and can throw the athlete into a state of confusion. As you will see throughout this video, a drill can always be made more difficult by adding additional colored balls to the mix. In this demonstration, the athlete has been instructed to hit the red and blue balls to the appropriately colored cones and to catch the newly introduced yellow ball. Another way to make mini drills more difficult is to force the athlete to turn just as the ball is being tossed. This causes everything in the athlete's field of vision to appear to be moving, thus making it more difficult to locate the ball and then react to it as instructed. Here the athlete is doing a 180-degree turn when the coach says, "Now." As soon as the athlete has completed the turn, the coach should have tossed the ball right in his face. The athlete must then recognize the color of the ball as red or blue and then slap it to the corresponding red or blue cone. As shown moments ago, the cone slap drill can be made more difficult by adding a yellow ball that must be caught. In a final ultimate challenge, the commands given to the athlete can be scrambled. In this demonstration, the athlete has been instructed to hit the blue balls to the red cone, hit the yellow balls to the blue cone, and to catch the red balls. It's not uncommon to see world-class athletes attempt this drill and to not get a single ball right the first time. This exercise is extremely difficult to master and can supremely frustrate athletes in the process. However, athletes who are capable of training their mind to deal with such a large amount of complex color recognition and reaction will have a tremendous advantage over their opponents during the heat of competition. This next drill is called the Defender. It is similar to the last in that it involves quickly executing a variety of commands as balls are being thrown, except that now the balls are being thrown at the athlete rather than just being tossed up in front of his face. Here the athlete starts in a ready position and the coach kneels 2 to 3 yards in front of him with a pile of blue and red balls. The coach assigns a command to each color ball and then throws the balls towards the athlete's head. In this example, the athlete has been instructed to catch the blue balls and to dodge the red balls. In this drill, the coach should literally throw the balls at the athlete's head in order to force a response from the athlete. The athlete should be reminded that the balls are just light wiffle balls and won't hurt if he actually takes one in the face. As demonstrated on earlier drills, the addition of a yellow ball ratchets up the level of difficulty. The athlete now has to catch the blue balls and dodge the red balls just as before, but he must also slap the yellow balls away. Rather than using additional colored balls, the athlete could conduct the drill by starting with his back to the coach and then turning 180 degrees when the coach says, "Now." When this technique is used, the coach should time it up where the ball is already in the air when the athlete is fully turned. Again, unlike the cone slap drill shown previously, the balls in this drill are traveling towards the athlete's head. Thus, the athlete has less time to look at the ball and must execute on it more quickly as compared to the cone slap drill where the ball is just falling to the ground in front of the athlete's face. To make the drill as difficult as possible, the 180-degree turning technique can be coupled with using red, blue, and yellow balls. Once again, this is a highly challenging exercise that will require supreme concentration by even the most skilled athletes. The blind spot exercise begins with the athlete in the up position of a push-up and the coach kneeling behind him with several colored balls. The coach will tell the athlete which color is the hot color and then will begin throwing the balls out in front of the athlete. The athlete must remain still until he sees the hot colored ball. In this demonstration, red has been designated as the hot color. When the hot color is thrown, the athlete will immediately accelerate out of his starting position and pass the ball. As the athlete becomes accustomed to reacting to the balls as they are thrown one at a time, the drill is then made more difficult by throwing multiple balls at once. Of the 4 balls being thrown by the coach, only one of them is the hot color. Here the coach throws 3 blue balls and 1 red ball. The athlete must quickly spot the red ball out of the 4 and sprint past it. Alternately, the coach could not tell the athlete which color is the hot color before throwing the balls, and instead instruct him to simply sprint past the ball that is colored differently from the other 3. This forces the athlete to quickly scan all of the balls before reacting. In another variation of the blind spot drill, the coach could designate the hot color and then throw 4 different colored balls at once. By making all the balls different colors, the hot colored ball does not stand out from the others as plainly as when all of the balls were of the same color. This slight twist will make the exercise a little more challenging for the athlete. We will continue to build on the blind spot drill by adding a couple of new elements. The athlete again begins in the up position of a push-up, and the coach stands behind him with several colored balls. Also, cones matching the color of the balls held by the coach are arranged in a straight line behind the athlete. The coach designates a hot color and then begins throwing the balls over the athlete's shoulder. When the athlete sees the hot colored ball, he will sprint out of his starting position, grab the ball, and then sprint back towards the colored cones. The athlete must spot the colored cone that matches the hot colored ball in his hand and then sprint through that cone. This drill stacks 2 elements of color recognition on top of one another and incorporates some great change of direction as well. Just like the first drill, this drill can be made more difficult by throwing multiple balls at once. Here the athlete retrieves the hot colored ball, which in this demonstration is red, and then sprints through the red cone. Also note that since the athlete has likely caught a glimpse of how the cones are arranged, or simply remembers their arrangement from the last repetition, it is important for the coach to mix the order of the cones up when the athlete is not looking. In this drill, we will incorporate the color cards from the visual ignition pack. The athlete will begin position between a red and a blue cone, and the coach will stand several yards in front of the athlete. The coach will flash the athlete one of the color cards. The athlete must recognize the color and then react to it by quickly stepping to the appropriately colored cone and then moving back to his starting position. The coach will then flash the athlete another card as soon as he has reached his original positioning. The athlete can be further challenged by instructing him to move to the opposite colored cone compared to the color card being flashed. Therefore, when the red card is flashed, the athlete will move to the blue cone. The next step of this drill is to incorporate a third color. The red, blue, and now yellow cones can be arranged in a straight line or in a triangle configuration. The drill still works the same way. The coach flashes a color and the athlete moves to that cone and then back to the middle as quickly as possible. Finally, by adding a green cone and the green card, the athlete has 4 possible directions in which to react. The entire feel of this drill can be altered by changing the spacing between the cones. By bringing the cones in tighter, the coach can flash the cards more quickly and force the athlete to react more times during a set. The Sprint Commander drill is unique because it couples color recognition with a moving athlete. Here the athlete sprints at full speed towards a coach from 15 yards away. When the athlete comes within 5 yards of the coach flashes a red or blue card. The athlete then cuts at a 45-degree angle and sprints through the appropriately colored cone set up behind the coach. The drill forces the athlete to recognize and react to colors while in the middle of a full-speed sprint. This is an important skill because the action of a game doesn't stop just because an athlete is jetting down the field or court. Quite the contrary, as an athlete's speed of movement increases, their ability to react quickly becomes more important and slight hesitations become magnified. Thus, an athlete who can react when he is in the middle of a high-speed movement has a great advantage over other athletes around him. Just like with previous drills, the next progression in the Sprint Commander drill is to reverse the commands given to the athlete. When the athlete sees a red card, he will now cut towards and sprint through the blue cone. The fact that this reaction is taking place in the middle of a sprint makes it even more difficult. Any hesitation on the part of the athlete will cause him to stumble through his cut, or even worse, run into the coach. After the previous version of the drill has been mastered, the yellow cone and card can then be added for the athlete. Because of the placement of the cones, the athlete may have to cut to his left or right, or may not have to cut at all, but rather just keep sprinting straight ahead. As you have probably already anticipated, the next step in the progression is to add the green cone and card. The athlete now has all 4 colors to react to, and his brain should be pushed to its absolute limits when cutting and reacting. Once the athlete has conquered the Sprint Commander drill utilizing all 4 colors, he can then progress to this most challenging version of the drill. In this version, a line of 4 colored cones is set up behind the coach just as before, but a line of colored balls is also added to the athlete's starting line. The athlete will sprint towards the coach, react to the coach's color command, and sprint through the appropriate cone behind the coach. Then, when the athlete reaches this cone, he will turn around and sprint back at the coach. The coach will then flash a second color command, and the athlete will sprint through the corresponding color ball on his original starting line. Potentially, the athlete could keep looping back after reaching the cones and balls and could go on for as many repetitions as you choose. However, since the idea is to make the athlete react while sprinting at full speed, it is recommended that you limit the athlete to 2 or 3 passes in order to avoid fatigue. The cone match drill is similar to the card commander drill, except that colored balls replace the color cards. In the most basic version of the drill, the athlete is placed between a red and blue cone. The coach then tosses red and blue balls at the athlete, which the athlete must catch and place next to the appropriately colored cone. As soon as the athlete has placed the ball next to the cone, he should begin moving back to a center point between the 2 cones. Also, as soon as the athlete begins moving back to this central location, the coach should put another ball in the air so that the athlete is constantly moving. Similar to other drills, As the athlete gets the hang of this exercise, he can then be instructed to place the balls next to the opposite colored cone. The next step in the progression is to add a yellow cone and the yellow balls. Now that 3 cones are involved, the cones can be arranged in a straight line with the athlete behind or in front of the cones, or in a triangle with the athlete in the middle of the cones. As the athlete continues to improve and master each version of the cone match exercise, the level of difficulty must be increased to continually challenge and push the athlete. Once 3 colors are mastered, the green cone and green balls can be added as demonstrated here. Finally, when the athlete is proficient in reacting to 4 different colored balls and cones, the coach should surrender his stationary position and go mobile. The coach now tosses the balls to the athlete as he walks around the perimeter of the cones. By doing this, the athlete is forced to turn with the coach, thus disrupting his sense of where each color cone is located. For an athlete, maintaining perfect awareness of where they are on the field or court and where everyone else is in relation to them is critical for success in team sports where numerous athletes are moving around. Training exercises like this one help athletes to develop that sixth sense that tells them an opponent is closing in from their blind spot or that a teammate is trailing behind them to help finish a play. The cleanup drill involves a jumbled mess of cones and balls that must be placed into their proper order. This drill is set up by placing a red, blue, yellow, and green cone in a square configuration and then sitting a non-matching color ball on top of each cone. The athlete is then placed in the middle of the cones with his eyes shut. The coach places a colored ball in the athlete's hands and then gives a go command. The athlete opens his eyes, determines the color of the ball, and then quickly finds the matching colored cone around it. The athlete then runs to that cone, picks up the ball sitting on top of that cone, and replaces it with the matching ball in his hand. The athlete then finds the matching cone for the ball he just picked up. This process continues until all of the cones have a matching colored ball sitting on top of them. By using a stopwatch, the athlete can be challenged to complete the drill in as little time as possible. Other twists that can be incorporated would be to add additional cones and balls, or to disrupt the athlete's sense of direction by forcing him to spin in place before opening his eyes. This next drill gets its name because it kind of resembles a kid trying to selectively catch the best items falling out of a piñata. The athlete begins in a ready position in front of the coach. The coach then tells the athlete the hot color and throws 2 different colored balls into the air. The athlete must leap into the air and attempt to catch the hot colored ball at the highest possible point. In this demonstration, red is the hot color, so the athlete is attempting to ignore the blue ball and to catch the red ball. Just as an athlete is required to react while he is in the middle of a full-speed sprint, he must also be able to react while he is in mid-air. This drill will help condition an athlete to focus on changes in the game while he is in the middle of a leap, and to train him to maintain enough body control so he can successfully react to those changes. You can increase the level of difficulty by adding a yellow ball to the mix as shown here. As demonstrated in earlier drills, it is good practice to change up the hot color from rep to rep. Like with many of the other exercises on this video, an athlete should strive to use all 4 colored balls for the piñata drill. Although only one of each color ball is being used in this demonstration, it is possible to toss more balls at once, thus making spotting the one hot colored ball even more difficult. The sniper drill also involves leaping and color recognition, but builds on the last drill by adding an additional element of skill. Here the athlete stands between a red and blue cone. The coach then tosses a single red or blue ball into the air, and the athlete attempts to leap up and catch it at its highest point. Once the athlete has caught the ball, he must then determine its color and then throw it at the matching colored cone before his feet touch the ground. As soon as the athlete lands, the coach should immediately put another ball into the air so that the athlete has to quickly execute another jump. As the athlete becomes proficient, a yellow ball and cone can be added to the mix. and then a green ball and cone can be added. The more colors involved, the more difficult it will be for the athlete to process all the information in the air to determine what to do with the ball after he has caught it. This exercise requires split-second decision-making and is an excellent tool for mimicking the quick pace of team sports. The final drills involve using all of the colored balls and cones to set up a grid as shown here. Each row of the grid is spaced 5 yards apart and contains one of each color ball. The athlete starts behind the first line with his eyes focused on the ground. The coach steps next to the athlete and tells him a color pattern. In this example, the coach has told the athlete red, yellow, blue, green. The athlete then immediately sprints towards the grid and follows the pattern given to him by the coach. Thus, the athlete sprints through the red ball on the first line, the yellow ball in the second line, the blue ball on the third, and then the green cone on the fourth line. Red, yellow, blue, green. This drill forces the athlete to memorize a set of commands and then execute those commands while sprinting as fast as possible. The athlete must be able to find the correct colors out of his peripheral vision and react to them while always moving forward and covering ground. To make this exercise more difficult, the athlete could be instructed to touch a line or to loop around a cone at the end of the grid and then sprint back through to his starting position. Here the coach has instructed the athlete to sprint through the grid in a green, red, yellow, blue pattern. This technique works particularly well because the color arrangement of the balls and cones appears in reverse to the athlete on the return sprint. So even though the athlete is still performing the original command of green, red, yellow, blue, he is still forced to react to the colors on the ground as if he were seeing them for the first time. Another way to disrupt the athlete in this drill is to scramble the balls in the color grid where each line is not set up in the same order as it was in the previous demonstration. This slight adjustment will ratchet up the difficulty of either the single pass or the loop back version of this drill. On this video, you have seen a number of unique exercises designed to enhance an athlete's speed. Remember, speed is not only the ability to physically move fast, but also the ability to recognize the need to begin moving. The Visual Ignition program enhances an athlete's speed by teaching the athlete to quickly recognize and react to visual triggers such as flashes of color. By learning to recognize a color, decode what that color means, and then to quickly execute a physical response in reaction to that color, an athlete will perform more smoothly and confidently in the course of athletic competition. Good luck with your training, and please contact the Speed City staff if we can be of further assistance to you.